Hey guys, this is Sharad with REsimpli, host of the REsimpli Podcast. I am absolutely excited. I'm double excited today to have Tony and Dakota. We're getting two amazing guests for the price of one on this podcast. So this is going to be good. I did a podcast with them about a couple of months ago. Hands down, I was like the best podcast I'd ever done. Like there's so many different directions we went on. So I loved it, man. I'm so excited to have you guys on the show. How are you guys doing?
Great. Now
Yeah.
that we're one of the best podcasts you've ever been
Dude,
on.
that was amazing, man. That was amazing. It was just such good fun. So many topics we covered. It was a really, really good podcast. Yeah, you guys have a great show. All right, man. Let's get started. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're joining in from, what do you do, and how long have you been doing that for?
We're over in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and we started about 6 years ago. And at this point, we've become probably the biggest single family home buyer in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and the surrounding areas. It's been a crazy journey. It started with just Dakota and I, and then this last 2 years or so, Dakota's really stepped into the CEO role, and he ended up hiring like 14 people. I was pretty much like, yeah, man, whatever you want. Like, we want to buy an office, let's buy an office space. So we bought an office space. We bought a building and turned it into like a little storage space. You know, when you get appliances and stuff and you're like, oh man, we really need a place to put all this junk. So we just kept buying buildings and hiring people. And just recently, we just got back from Sharper, which we were talking about before we got on the podcast, and just learned how you grow really, really quickly. And then you take a look at your business and realize how many inefficiencies are in the business, which is what we were just talking about. So we've been grinding it out. Dakota mainly has been grinding it out, and just recently got a bunch of feedback, and we're excited to start creating processes and procedures and like actually turn this cash cow into a real business.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? Like how like systems and processes are generally the most boring part of the business, but the most important part of the business. It's crazy. Like people just, they get into the business, start making money, and then they realize, oh, I have all this revenue coming in, but I'm not actually keeping anything for myself. I'm not just saying, it's true for you guys, but I'm just saying generally you talk to a lot of investors doing seven-figure in revenue, but at the end of the day, they don't have any money left in the bank account. So it's crazy that once you start looking into systems and processes. So that's amazing. You guys in Fort Worth, Indiana. I'm in Northwest Indiana. So about like hour and a half, 2 hours away from that market. And you guys are mostly wholesaling, fix and flip, rental, or a little bit of everything.
Yeah, so it's about 80% wholesale or wholetail. So we kind of just categorize the same together because we just don't do much to them, and we'll sell them off. So I don't know what the actual split is between those, but then the other 20% is fix and flip. We have about 80 rentals, but we're not actively growing it. The only time that we really keep any more rentals of any sorts is whenever the flip just didn't work and we're like, all right, I guess we're keeping it now. And then we'll just keep it as a rental at this point. So we're not actively growing anymore.
For the viewers at home too, we didn't start off like that. We started off trying to be burr investors. So Dakota was working full-time in car sales. I was bouncing around from job to job to job. Eventually Dakota told me like, hey, go into the business and we'll just pay you the same amount that you're making, because I kept going from entry-level job to entry-level job. I didn't have a specific skill set that was going to pay me well. So it was easier for me to make the transition. And so for people listening at home, I mean, we started doing the whole like leveraging debt and doing the cash out refinances and getting the money back. But then we just quickly learned that like even in a market where like you can buy affordable houses and rent them out pretty well, after you consider all of your costs like move out and replacing tenants and property management, when you really become an investor and hire a property management company, if you've got like 7% notes at 15 years, you don't cash flow that much.
You don't.
So at some
Yeah.
point, when we joined the Wealthy Investor or Future Flipper Mastermind with Ryan Pineda was like, guys, you gotta stop buying rental properties. You gotta actually turn this thing into a real business. And Dakota's always been amazing at sales. I've been pretty good at figuring out the marketing and then like evolving it as the market shifted and that sort of thing. We definitely went from using, just to plug your company, we went from using Google Sheets keeping everything in a Google sheet to use in REsimpli. So that was helpful. And so we have done some systems. We've created some systems along the way, but marketing and sales has always been our expertise. And so it just made sense. Find deals, find money, just keep scaling that. And that's how we actually started to really start to feel some success, is when we
Right.
started wholesaling and flipping.
Absolutely, man. Hey, I never asked you guys this question. How do you guys know each other? Because you guys complement each other really well. You know, it's hard in this business for partnerships to, get along really well. You've been doing this together for 6 years. Just talk a little bit about that and what have been some of the challenges in last 6 years.
Yeah, so the way that we know each other was when I was 14, I was getting picked on by these bullies. And so I was like, man, I got to learn how to fight. And so Tony was known as like the guy who knows how to fight because he had fight clubs in the backyard.
And
So,
videos
That
of
is crazy.
yeah.
That's insane.
So then I was like, hey man, I got to learn how to fight. And I was just like some little broke kid. So I was like, hey dude, like I got a bunch of quarters and stuff. Could you like take my money and then go and buy me UFC gloves online? Because I don't have a card that I can buy it online for or whatever.
No
So
way,
Tony took
seriously? Dude,
yeah,
that's
all my money,
amazing.
some UFC gloves. And then we ended up like having some fight clubs, and that's how we learned. Tony was in MMA, did a lot of fights in the cage, and then I was a boxer, so I did boxing for a couple years. But yeah, we just had a lot of sparring, and we really connected with fighting. And then also we obviously played like Call of Duty and stuff like that in high school. But yeah, we just really met when I was 14. I think he was 16 at the time. So that was how we met. And then yeah, the challenge that we faced, I mean, we faced a lot of different challenges. In the beginning, it was three of us, and we had another partner, and the partner wasn't exactly showing up as much. Tony and I had more of a connection. We talked a whole lot more, so felt like me and him were talking a lot more and building the company. And so then we had the conversation with that guy, had to buy him out. It actually was easier than we thought it was going to be because we just started back then. So that was an easy conversation because we had like 3 houses. We did one flip and we said, hey, we're only going to do profits based on the flip. So we bought them out. I think it was like $4,000 at the time. And so that wasn't easy. But that was still something that arose like just right there in the beginning. I mean, some of the other complications were a lot of times there would be fear from Tony on like, hiring people or like the first deal, stuff like that. And I'm like, dude, we're going to freaking do it. So like, if you want to do it, you got it. Like, you're going to be a part of it with me or not. And so it's kind of like, let's go or not. And most of the times like, okay.
Yeah, I'm better at being the worst case scenario thinker and the well, let's think about this first. I need 6 more points of data before we make a decision in order to like make
That
sure it's actually the right decision.
I mean, that's really good to have. You guys like really complement. Like I've noticed that, we've connected on few other calls. You guys really complement each other really well. Has there ever, like, are you guys very clear on what your guys' roles and responsibilities are in the business? Is there overlap? Is there any tension in there?
Yeah, it's funny that you asked. So we literally were just having a conversation this morning because I don't know how much you want to get into it.
Yeah, so
Oh,
maybe
I don't want to see like real life Fight Club over here.
No, it's not like that.
I guess like in November was when Dakota first came to me, because we constantly are paying for coaching and that sort of thing. And so Dakota just had a discussion with his coach how he was doing a disproportionate amount of the work, and he came to me to talk to me about that. And I was like, yeah, that's true. Like over years, like probably over the last 2 years, Dakota's kind of like I was saying in the beginning of this, ended up in the CEO seat, ended up in the leadership role, ended up in the managing all of our employees role, where like kind of from the beginning I was like, hey, if we buy an office, like I don't know if I'm necessarily going to be there, I don't know if I'm about that. Just like, yeah, over the course of the last couple of years, Dakota's been doing a disproportionate amount of the work. So we just had a conversation recently, back in November, and I've kind of been out of the business since then, trying to figure out what I want for my life and that sort of thing. And I couldn't figure it out on a conscious level, but on a subconscious level, it was more like, man, I want a positive potential future. And a positive potential future to me means like having less hours of responsibility as far as the like nitty gritty and the details and that sort of thing, and moving toward being a visionary. And I just didn't see a way to do that with the way that we were doing things currently. And so I was withdrawing instead of grinding it out. And Dakota's archetype is more like, dude, I'm going to show up and do the work no matter what. Like, I'm not going to let this thing fail kind of thing. And so we're kind of the opposite in that way too, where Dakota is just like, dude, it's got to be done. So I don't care what task it is. I'll sit here and do it. I'm coming back into the company now to help create the role, each person's role, and kind of get it dialed in and create the procedures and the processes, kind of being like, I guess they called it the CGO, the Chief Growth Officer or something like that. So going to each person, figuring out their processes, getting them in training and that sort of thing. Some of the systems that we're going to be creating in the near future.
So being very clear about each person's roles and responsibility. Hey, this is my lane. This is your lane. We're going to stay in our lane. And then I mean, this is great that you guys were able to have that open communication about, hey, I feel like I'm, putting a little bit more than my fair share of work here. And then Tony, great on you for just being very open, about it and say, hey, I agree with you. I think that's that just goes to show what an amazing partnership you guys have built. And then working with the leadership team at Sharper, I think that's just going to help and give more clarity on the roles and responsibility and a good accountability chart. And how many people do you have in your team right now?
13 or 14.
13 or 14. And then it's just gonna the roles and responsibilities are gonna pass down to everyone, so everyone knows kind of what they're doing, and then the bigger vision of the company and kind of the direction we're going on. And then you guys have only been doing it for 6 years, which is not a very long time, and tend to be the largest home buyers in your market. And it's not a small area. Fort Wayne is a pretty decent sized market. What have been some of the challenges in growing the team from where you guys started, just the two of you guys, and then to have a team of 13, 14 people? Dakota, you're smiling.
It's funny just because I was literally been thinking so much about this now. I've learned so much just in the last couple of days from Sharper, but I thought a lot about this specific question because I care so much about people and about individuals that what I do is I have individual conversations and I want the best for so many people. And so what I found that I will do is, what do you want? How can I fit that in this vision? Which is why I'm so good at sales, because I truly want to help the other person figure out what they want. That is just something that I really, really love to do. And so then what I've done is bring these people on. What do you want? Does it fit in our vision? Yes. Okay, cool. We're going the same way. Then what do you want? Okay, cool. Let me make this. Oh, that's a little bit different than this person wants, but I think I can kind of fit it in. When you add 13 people into the mix and I still have my own desires and wants and needs, it's impossible to make sure that we're all on the same page. So now it's about not necessarily the individual, it's about what's best for the company. And so it's a shift for me that was a difficult shift, and Gary helped me see it, because I used to think of the company as me and Tony. And so whenever I did what was in the best interest of the company, it would then feel selfish, like I'm doing something that's for me, as opposed to doing it for everybody else. And so that's been the biggest shift and the biggest change of now it's not hey, do whatever you want because I don't care. I want you to have freedom, because that's the way I've always been. I don't like rules. I don't like procedures. I don't like that because I'm used to a sales context, 100% commission. So the kind of people we brought on are more entrepreneurial type, but you still got to create guidelines for them. Otherwise, they're going to go out and now we have a lot of people wanting to start side businesses, wanting to wholesale by themselves. It's bro, are you with us or are you not? And I've always been that way of if you want to leave, that's okay too. I'm never going to hold you back from your potential, but you can't do it inside of this. So it's just, that's been the biggest shift is whenever you're first coming on, dude, whatever you do is great. There's no rules. We'll figure it out. And then they're kind of great in their own thing because they're entrepreneurs. And then now that we have a big enough team, if you go outside of something, now everybody else thinks they can do it, and it's going to affect the entire team. And so now policies, procedures are now necessary in order to actually have it work for the whole, which is a hard concept for me, I guess, to understand until now.
I don't think other businesses like ours do is reinvesting in education and reinvesting in our people. Everything from just taking the team to 10X Growth Conference once a year,
right,
or going to the Sharper business training, or even some of the personal development stuff that we have locally. I bring the PSI Basics seminar to Fort Wayne, and that's kind of a internal reflection and awareness of how you show up. And so I think all of the different things that we've done have got our people more invested in our company, and also helped our communication and retained a lot of our employees who like maybe otherwise would have left had we been poorer leaders or had they not felt the shift in themselves from doing some of the things that we've done with them. But like Dakota said too, you know, the predictive index, the PI test, it's so funny like how maybe like 80% of our team came back a maverick or a captain, which means that you have a bunch of like type A driven,
Right.
like I want to start my own thing type personalities all working in within this company. And the benefit to that is that a lot of times like Dakota and I didn't teach them how to do their jobs. We were basically like, here's a basic template. And like besides that, like try to figure it out on your own. And like when you can't figure something out, come back to me and I'll give you some direction. And so people have been very good at self-leading. The downside comes from the strong personalities and like need for awareness because we don't have a lot of employees in this office. We have a bunch of entrepreneur
Entrepreneur, yeah.
architects that
Yeah,
are
so that,
doing their own thing in a productive way for the company.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's going to be an interesting mix, I mean, yes, they're doing their thing, but at the same time, I think it's going to be an interesting transition to put like these guidelines around them. Hey, we can do this really well, but there's some guidelines around it. So I think it'll be interesting transition to do that. Hey, I want to shift gear a little bit here. So you guys are absolutely great at marketing and sales. What are some of the things that are working really, really well for you guys? So this is like March 2024. We have regulations and restrictions coming from like texting and calling. It's getting a little bit challenging. So I want to find out kind of, you guys have an amazing business. You guys are doing, a large team. What's working for you guys right now? And what are you guys looking to, like, as you see ahead, 2024 and into maybe next year, which direction are you going in?
Dakota's pulling up our wholesales and flips
Yeah.
spreadsheet right now to look it over and see the
Yeah,
details on everything. But
it's definitely been a very interesting last like 6 to 9 months. Like I would say since like mid 2023, like when like this SMS restriction started coming in. And I don't think everyone has kind of accepted that reality. But you guys are still scaling. So I'm very curious to see like what's been working for you guys.
well, what's interesting is that luckily by the time those texting regulations went in place, I was like, oh man, all our leads are going to dry up.
Yeah.
Because texting was one of our highest lead generators at the
Right.
lowest cost. But then because of our brand that we've been building over the last 6 years, because of our presence with like, the Investor Carrot website and things like
Right.
that, because of referrals from other people in our market, because we own the Real Estate Investors Association here locally, because we produce social media content consistently, because we send out mailers regularly. Luckily, we had established like Google pay-per-click. We just established TV ads as well. We started diversifying our marketing. And so luckily when that hit, it wasn't like nearly as devastating as it would have been 2 years ago.
Yeah, so I would say our highest like that we can see, because the hardest part is obviously, when you got TV, when you have direct mail and they go to the Carrot website, you're not sure if that was the direct mail or was it Google. It's
True.
difficult to say, but I know that texting was by far, and I mean by far the highest. So it says we have 47 deals last year from texting. Our next closest is 15 deals, and that was direct mail and Carrot lead. They're tied. So whether it's
Right.
direct mail or Carrot lead, we both had 15. So putting those two, the next, number 2 and number 3 together still didn't even equal texting. Texting was, I mean, it's just a game changer. We're still doing it as much as we can, but it's definitely lower. From there, our number 4 was referral. And yeah, from actually, the funniest part is number 5 is wholesalers, which is basically the same thing as referral. So yeah, I mean, direct mail and Carrot leads. I mean, TV ads have always been great for us, and they generate so much other stuff, and it gets you so much more presence. So I would always say TV is awesome as well. It is expensive, is the only thing.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend somebody start out with TV. And I was pretty resistant to TV early on. We found a better carrier who gives us better pricing too, because we just called the local people and we're like, hey, we want to do TV ads. They didn't tell us a lot of the hacks, like to have your phone number across the bottom, the entire commercial, to do a 30-second commercial instead of a 15-second commercial, because it takes people some time to like get a piece of paper and write down your number.
Right.
This particular TV provider, I don't, do you want to tell people the TV provider?
Yeah, you might actually know the guy too. Tony Javier
Oh
with
yeah. He just lives right in Carlsbad. Yeah, he beat my ass in pickleball. Yeah. Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
so we went from
He's the
having
go-to guy for TV. Yeah.
yeah, we had like probably 70 spots and we were paying like, I don't remember, it's like $5,000 a month. And
Yeah.
with him, we pay like $6,500 a month and we get 700 spots. So he
Oh
literally
wow.
did 10x our
Oh
spots.
wow. That's
How much
insane.
money?
That is great. So $1,500 for 1,500 additional bucks, you have like 650 more
On
spots.
a
That's
lot of different channels too, not just one channel where we were only on one channel.
wow.
Yeah, when
That's great.
I'm sure you already know this too, Sharad, but like TV ads, people are a little bit more invested. They're a little
Yeah.
bit older. They're the older population that's watching TV, even the connected TV, like on the iPads and stuff. It's
Right.
mostly 65-year-old and older. And when they call in, they're just so much more invested because
Right.
in your face, it's like maybe you came on right after their favorite Western or something like that. You just have more instant rapport. And TV ads also help you translate or convert better with all of the other lead types too.
Absolutely.
You instantly have more rapport. So if somebody got a letter from you, you show up to their house and they're like, well, for some reason, everybody always thinks they know who I am. For some reason, though, I've seen you before, and then they find out they have no idea who I am. But TV sometimes is just like that, where they see you and they're like, "Oh, you guys are on the TV," and then you're like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
I've even had our competitors be like, "Dude, I was getting somebody to sign a contract, and then then you popped up on their TV."
No way. That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, man. I think that's what I've heard from other people that are doing TV. And like Tony Javier is great, by the way. Like he's the go-to guy for TV. I've heard from other investors that it's the TV, that has so much indirect benefit to other marketing that you're doing. It helps your direct mail. It just helps your branding. Your website traffic goes up because if there's someone sees you on TV, they're going to Google searching you, and it just helps your credibility so much. Are you guys doing any other inbound like radio or just like doing TV, SEO, PPC?
It's funny because everything you talk about or asking questions about, I feel like happened today. So I literally just got a call from somebody at Tony's office. His name's Noah. And he called me today and he's like, hey, I wanted to give you radio pricing and stuff. I've just been in meetings. So I was like, can you email me? Like, so
Right.
we did radio one time, but we spent like $1,000 and it was on a rock band. So I asked him to like get me pricing and stuff. It's definitely something that we want to get into. Something that Gary Sharper just talked about though, that I don't, hopefully Tony doesn't get mad at us for saying it. Tony Javier is he
You
talked
can
about
edit it if you
how
want.
in this time frame with the election coming up, it might not be the best time because they're going to spend so much more on ads that
True.
you're not going to be out there as much. So because it's based on the ad spend that you spend on the positions
Yeah.
that you're in, and all the politicians are going to spend way more than you. So this might not be the right time for TV
Yeah.
or radio. So he did mention that. So I was like, well, that
Yeah.
does sound
Makes sense.
nice.
Yeah. I used to do billboard ads on 8094, and then they would always have like end of mid-June to like July 4th booked out because of all the fireworks shop. So it's like, hey, if it's July 4th, they're just gonna take all the billboards in the area. So it could be the same for TV ads with election. But yeah, it'll be interesting. But yeah, I mean, like that's what I hear from more investors that are being successful in this market is investing more in inbound leads versus outbound leads, because then you have a little bit more control and the quality of leads tend to be better. I'm sure like the leads that you were getting from SMS were very inexpensive, but then you had to get so many more leads in order to convert them into a deal. But with TV or other PPC, like your conversion is so much better. You're able to convert like 10, 15 leads into one deal versus you might have to go through 100 leads in SMS and cold calling before you convert them into a deal. Is that kind of what your guys' experience been?
100%.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think Dakota quoted somebody that he heard on Instagram or something like that. I thought it was hilarious, and now I repeat it to people all the time. I don't know if he remembers it or not. It was like, quick, cheaper, easy. You can only have two.
True. Yeah. Isn't there something like that they say for the contractors also? Like good, cheap, or like there's something like you can only pick two of the three. Yeah, but that, yeah, quality. Yeah, that makes so much sense, man. But what's the one marketing channel that you guys are like if you had to pick one, if said, hey, you guys can only pick one marketing channel, or if you had someone came to you and said, newbie investor saying, hey, I want to take this business seriously and I want to invest in one marketing channel, which one would you guys recommend in this market?
We've always done direct mail, and we did that
Right.
from the beginning. Tony and I used to actually handwrite the letters and like put them in the envelope and actually do it. So we've been doing direct mail the whole time, and it's been consistent for the last 6 years. So
Right.
that's always our number one. Tony came up with a way to make it pretty efficient and stuff too that we can tell people about.
Yeah, I think it depends with direct mail too, like on your budget. So if somebody and their personality profile, like if you're getting into somebody's personality type, like if Dakota came to me and asked me and I didn't know him, but then he told me enough about him, I'd be like, dude, I think you could do texting. Like I think you have the personality for it.
Right.
And people that are willing to do a little bit more sketchy stuff, if you live in an area and you have like a little bit of a ghetto nearby and you're willing to do like stuff that's a gray area and it's sketchy and it's like kind of not
What
that
would
much
that be?
fun, you could do bandit signs.
Right. Yeah. I
It's
mean,
totally
they're
possible.
illegal in our market. The cities would like fine you, at least the markets, some of the cities that we invest in. But yeah, we see a lot of those still investors putting them up. But I do agree with you. Like, this is what we've noticed looking at the data of REsimpli investors, especially the ones that are consistently doing deals. You know, a lot of them have direct mail as their primary marketing. But even if direct mail is not their primary marketing, one thing we noticed, they're all doing some direct mail. Not everyone is doing TV, not everyone is doing PPC, not everyone is doing radio, but everyone that's consistently doing deals is doing some direct mail, whether it's thousands of people, whether it's like a niche list that they're sending to. So I do agree, like someone starting out and is want to be consistent, direct mail is the way to go. And do you have a favorite list that you would go after?
You know what's interesting is if you don't have very much money, I think multiple levels of motivation have been good. Like
Right.
an absentee owned property that's owned by a mom and pop, so individuals only, not LLCs. I
Corporate and
exclude
trust, yeah.
trusts, exclude mixed even. And then sometimes like 50% equity. Sometimes it just depends on how big your sample size is. Like if
Right.
a 5 million person city, then you're gonna have to niche it down quite a bit. But like
Right.
50% equity is kind of nice because then you have room for a spread. And then also maybe somebody that's owned the property for 10 years because they're probably sick and tired of being a landlord at this point and ready to give it up. Maybe a house that's at least 50 years old because then you're getting into the like,
Distressed.
everything needs
Yeah.
maintenance type property at that
Absolutely.
point. So if somebody was
Absolutely.
just starting out, I would be like, yeah, just hit all of those layers of motivation so that you're getting people that call you that are like, I'm tired of being a landlord.
Yeah. Especially we notice if they own like two, three, or four properties, then they're not like professional investors. They just happen to have a couple of properties that they bought and they may not be, managing it properly, and they just tend to be more tired landlords versus someone who has like 5, 10 properties or more.
Yeah, like 5 or less properties that are vacant. That vacant
Yeah.
list is a really nice one too. I really like vacant.
Yeah, that's what I tell investors. Like, if you're not sure, start with kind of what you guys said. And if it's a big market, layer in vacant on top of it. Absentee, equity, years of ownership, and vacant. Cool, guys. This has been really, really good. All right. Last segment of our show. I'm gonna ask you some questions. You can each answer separately. What do you guys do for fun other than like Fight Club? Yeah. All right, Dakota, I'm gonna start with you.
All right, what do I do for fun? Well, first of all, I think business is a lot of fun. I'll say that. Like, I do have a lot of fun. Like, it's actually hard for me to have fun outside of it. What I've been doing lately is I've been down in Florida, so I just started fishing, which is kind of funny. I've
Nice.
been catching like some big fish, and I just feel like that for me is so fun. I bought like a fishing hat, and then I just got a rod. So like, yeah, I've been fishing because like, dude, when you're down in Florida, you never know what kind of fish you're gonna get. When you're up in Indiana, it's like you get bass or bluegill. It's not that
Right.
exciting. But when you're like pulling stuff out. I'm like, dude, I don't even know what this is. Like, we got a puffer fish the last time and it like puffed up. I'm like, this is so cool. Like, you just never know what
Nice.
you're gonna get. So I've been enjoying that. That's been a lot of fun.
All right, what about you, Tony?
When I'm not working, I spend a lot of time with my daughter. So she lives
How old
in
is
Al.
she?
She's turning 9 soon. And so I drive up to her, pick her up from school. We go to Starbucks. It's like a routine. We go to Starbucks and then we go to the park. And then sometimes we
Nice.
go to an arcade and then we like to, pick fights with middle schoolers or like high school dudes that are like, oh yeah, my daughter and I know this one laser tag place really well, so we know all the best spots, and so
Nice.
just runs at people like a bandit, and then I snipe everybody, and we usually school
That's
them.
amazing.
We usually do
That's
pretty good.
that's amazing, man. What's the one book that's had the most influence in your life? It could be business, it could be personal, or it could be one of each. Tony,
Well, Rich Dad Poor Dad is an easy one. I mean,
right?
that's like the biggest perspective shifter. Most recently, the book that's had a big impact was 10x is better than 2x. I
Oh yeah. Ben
really like
Hardy and yeah.
all of the books that set of authors puts out is like always really good. But the original gangster of personal development is How to Win Friends and Influence People. That was like the very first book that ever turned me on to like, oh, this is an entire class of book that I haven't even touched
Absolutely.
yet.
What about you, Dakota?
Yeah, I was gonna say How to Win Friends and Influence People. That was a book that I read when I was in sales, and I didn't. I feel like empathy is kind of hard for me, and so it kind of taught me about empathy and listening to other people and helping with their perspectives. Because again, I would give them solutions and then get upset with them for not be like, yeah, that's great, like and like solving the problem. So that book taught me a lot about just listening to understand instead of listening to respond. And so that book taught me so much about sales, helped my sales skills develop, helped me learn about empathy and what that actually looks like. I'm still like not, I wouldn't say I'm the best at it, but I'm like growing. And I've read that book like probably like 3 or 4 times now. I read that book a lot.
Yeah, no, that's a great book. All right, last question. If you could spend a day with anyone, dead or alive, who would you want to spend the day with and why? Dakota.
Oh yeah, that one's very easy for me. It'd definitely be Jesus. I mean, to understand or to ask. I wonder if he would give me straight answers though. He'd probably ask me more questions. I'd be like,
Yeah.
what about this? And he'd ask me a question, but like
He'll still get you to the answer.
yeah.
You might have to learn Hebrew first.
Yeah. But that would definitely be the person that if I could spend a day with, that would just be insane. I mean, yeah, it's like
Yeah.
a person that I obviously want to resemble and like live my entire life based off of. So it would just be insane to see what he's actually like. Because I think that other people have an interesting perspective of him, especially like our culture. They're like, oh, he's just this nice guy who's just nice no matter what. I'm like, did you read the Bible? Like this
Yeah.
guy was not always like the most nice. He was like, he would just ask you questions, be very straight up and very real, like just very authentic. And so I think that'd be a dream. That'd be crazy.
All right, Tony.
After Dakota's answer, I don't know if
Yeah, you got to top that answer now.
good. I wasn't thinking that. I wasn't going that far back. I was
No, it
thinking
could be.
of folks who have influenced me along the way. And even though I feel like I'm moving into different values now, I still like very much value someone's ability to articulate. And so Jordan Peterson is one of my favorites.
Oh, yeah.
So like taking things that are true, but then I feel like he does such a good job of taking, because he's mainly known as a conservative. He's like, if you're looking for the last conservative psychologist, he's sitting in this chair in this room talking right now.
Huh.
And I think he's so good at taking somebody else's perspective and giving it credit and explaining why it makes logical sense to them, but then giving his perspective and being like, and this is why I changed my perspective and why I believe this thing now. So Jordan Peterson's been really cool for me to listen to and be like, oh, those things resonate with me too. I also believe that they're true. I've just never heard someone explain it
Yeah. No,
that way.
he's amazing. He's got so much great content on YouTube. It's funny. You're the second person who mentioned him. So, all right, guys. If someone wants to connect with you guys, learn a little bit more about you guys, what's the best way for them to do that?
Facebook, You can find us as Dakota Bailey, Tony Moore. We have our company, LTD Property Group, and we have a Facebook, Tony and Dakota. My Instagram is dakotabailey.in for Indiana. And then I think Tony's is.
Tony David Moore.
Yep.
All right, we'll put that all in the show note. This has been great, man. It's just so crazy. I feel like I'm talking to you guys while you're standing in my living room. It's just been so crazy. It's just I have the exact same wall in my living room. That's insane. All right,
That's
guys, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much. I know you guys are busy. Thank you so much for taking time for coming on the podcast.
Yes, sir. Thank you, brother.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.